Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at my top tips for when you're buying a used car. The used car market is full of gems and you can really find some fantastic deals when you're looking around. But you can find some horror stories too, cars that have been abused, just mistreated and not maintained properly. So there are a few things to look out for and a few signs just to be wary of. Again, lads, you can find cars on the used car market that have been sports cars looked after by, elderly couples. You can find unicorns, cars that are really just fantastically rare for tenths of the price that you could buy new cars for, so it really is a good place to look out for. And to find that people in the car community rarely really buy new cars, one because they probably can't afford it, but even if they can, they could buy so much more metal for the same price in the used car market. So lads, at the very minimum, make sure you're buying your cars in the day or at least in showrooms and places with good lighting. If you're buying cars at night and you have to light the thing with a torch, you're probably going to miss details like dents and scratches and bits of rust, anything like that that could show up much more visibly during the day. So look at your cars in good conditions. I know it sounds really simple, not when it's raining as well. Make sure it's dry, well lit and good condition. It might save you from bringing home a car in the dark and then in the morning when you wake up you see massive scratches and bits missing that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. Over the bodywork, get right up close to it, look at each panel gap, look at the paintwork. If different body panels don't match up, then start raising a little bit of concern. If one wing panel has a slightly different gap to the other one, it could potentially have had body damage the owner's not telling you about. So every little detail, kind of push it, and if they haven't disclosed it in the sales information, then you can use that to push the price down too. So every little detail, try and find it. Keep an eye out for rust. You're going to want to get under the car, look underneath it too. A lot of people when they're buying cars don't even get underneath to have a look. If there's any sign of rust on the chassis, things like the exhaust, going to have to be a little bit worried. Rust is a pain in the ass to get rid of, especially if it's on the chassis. If it's on the chassis, that's a hell of a lot of money to get rid of that or get that fixed. So rust patches are a big no-no. Tell a lot of the time if it's oxidizing under the paint, if your paint's bubbling, especially on the rims and things like that. The rims, you can refurb them and they're not that much of a pain in the ass. Chassis is definitely a worry though. When it comes to tires, the wear itself isn't necessarily that important. You need 1.6 mil, but apart from that, it's not that much of an issue. The thing you got to look out for is how even the wearing is on each of the tires. So if say you look at the front right tire and the left side of it is more worn than the right side on the tread, then the car's camber could be out. It could be just an alignment issue. But if you're seeing that and then you're looking at sort of slightly dodgy suspension components as well, it could be suspension damage, it could be your shocks are shot, it could be your bushings are out. You've got to look at the tires. If it's unevenly worn, then there could be hidden problems with the suspension as well, so be a little bit careful. If that's not a problem for you, you have the tools to fix that sort of thing, you have a workshop or you don't mind paying labour, then that's fine, but keep an eye out that it might be extra costs, including that of the tyres you'll need to buy to replace, so keep that. One of the most important tips is get the bonnet up and check all your basic fluid levels, your coolant, your engine oil, all that basic stuff. You're going to want to take the cap off the oil filler cap as well and look to see if it's clean and consistent. If it's got any dark, dirty bits in the engine oil, then maintenance could be on the low priority for the previous owner. If under the oil filler cap there's anything that looks white or creamy or anything, you should be worried in a few ways. Alright, the potential is that's going to be a blown head gasket or one that's just leaking badly anyway, and that's going to be coolant mixing with your engine oil. That is not good. That is not cheap to fix either, so keep an eye out for that. When you turn up to buy a car, turn it on from cold and listen to it cold start. Make sure you're listening for any rattly noises, any clunking noises, anything that sounds like knocking. If it's anything like that, then one that's going to be a sign of low maintenance, high wear. You're going to really want to stay away from that sort of thing again as well. It's just unfortunate. Some cars just aren't looked after properly and they're just ragged everywhere, so keep that in mind. If the car's been idling for a while as well, get under the front and look to see if it's leaking anything. Oil, coolant, anything like that could spell trouble and more money in the future too. When the car's idling, it should be smooth too. It shouldn't be kind of rising or falling or sort of every now and then stuttering or catching, anything like that. Make sure it's rock solid and smooth. For test driving cars, your ears are going to be the most important thing too. If you're hearing anything inside the car, like grinding from any one of the wheels, not under braking, then that could be a wheel bearing that's shot. And talking about braking too, if you step on the brakes and you're kind of hearing squealing, grinding noises, then that's probably discs and pads are shot too. Use your ears. Anything like suspension knocking, going over bumps and things like that is gonna signify not maybe massive problems, but things you will have to fix eventually and that are gonna, you know, stack up and bite your wallet later. Noise too, and there's a test you can do. If there is like a grinding sort of rattling noise coming from the front of the car and you put the clutch in and it goes away, that will probably be a throwout bearing too, and they're fairly expensive jobs too. Not necessarily if you do it yourself, but they're quite hard on some cars to do yourself with no proper tools. Once you're moving and you want to get moving, check that the clutch is smooth when you release it, that it doesn't grab too hard or it doesn't stick to the floor. There's no grinding noises. All your gears going properly, first to fifth or sixth if you've got it, reverse too. Make sure everything's smooth, it's not grinding, and it's not resisting too hard. If you get a check engine light popping and staying on the dashboard as well, then that could be a myriad of issues. That could be an O2 sensor, that could be a coil pack, that could be air filters, so be wary of that. Just grill the owner and check if they know of any issues. If not, stay away from the car. It's simple as that. Again, unless you have the tools, the space and the money to fix it. So once your car's warmed up as well, you can tell a few things about the state and the healthiness of the engine by looking at the exhaust fumes. The basics of what your exhaust fumes are telling you. If you see light blue smoke, that's generally a sign of oil being burnt out the exhaust pipe. It does mean your engine is drinking a little bit of oil and will mean it will need to be kept an eye on, topped up. It could spell big trouble later on, so you're gonna have to be really careful with this. If it's blue and you're looking to buy the car, then be wary unless you're really sure what you're doing. Sign of a leaking turbo, if the car is turbocharged too, it just means your wallet's probably gonna get stung again. Smoke too is steam, it's water evaporating, and if your car is cold, that's absolutely fine, that's just it all evaporating out the exhaust pipe. But if your car has been running for a while and it's sort of bellowing white, thickish smoke, then that could be a blown head gasket. That's water entering the combustion chamber, and that could be really damaging later on. Black smoke is never really a massive problem, especially if it's a diesel. But if it's a petrol, it just means the car's running a little bit rich, and it could be a couple of sensors are on the way out. It's never really a massive problem unless it's billowing black soot and it's petrol, then you've got to be worried. You've just got to use a bit of common sense and be wary, push the sellers, get as much money off as you can, and find yourself that bargain.
So before you go and look at a selling car, it might be a good idea to search online for its common faults beforehand. This can let you know of a few things that might be off or not working on the car you'll be going to test drive, and let you know of the 1 or 2 things that you might need to look out for when you're in the car. A quick simple Google search such as 2006 Ford Fiesta common faults will find you a myriad of forum pages and search results to let you know the most common problems people have had with that specific car in the past. You can use this to push on the seller and ask if they've had those exact items replaced in the past or not, or had any problems with them at all. This will give you an idea of what you might need to replace in the future too, so it's good to know what you might need to budget in.
If you test drive a car, it looks great, but then things like the engine and transmission feel a little bit off, or the other way around. The engine and transmission look great, but it looks battered on the outside, the suspension's off, things like that. Just grill the seller. If you can't get the price way down because of these things and they haven't mentioned it before, then be really worried. Just there are so many cars on the market, especially in the UK, there is something else that's going to come around. I promise you, keep an eye out, you will find a bargain eventually, and just keep going. Thank you so much guys for watching. Got some really exciting news coming up with the channel very soon, so thank you so much for chilling and being awesome. The support is crazy. We're going on way past 5,000 subs. We're nearly at 1 million channel views, things like that, so that's mind-blowing for me. Thank you so much again. Drive safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.